there, and welcome to today's live e-commerce reviews. Charles Nichols, founder of CY and shopping cart conversion expert, has teamed up with the renowned site optimization expert Tim Ash, who's CEO of SiteTuners and author of the book Landing Page Optimization. Together, they're going to be giving you some free advice on how to better optimize your landing pages and shopping carts. They've selected some sites from those of you who are in the audience here. They've followed what they consider to be a pretty normal purchase path, including abandoning items left in your cart. So you'll be seeing what they encountered along the way and getting the same advice that they give their paying clients, all for free.
Very good. Well, welcome. My name is Charles Nichols. Thank you for a great introduction, Casey. Tim, do you want to say hello?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Tim Ash, and glad everyone's joined us.
So let's kick off with our first review. I almost said victim there. I'm very grateful to everybody who's volunteered their sites because you get us to wade in on your site and get through as many as we can. So let me just share.
And we're going to go through them, not necessarily end to end for everyone. We just want to hit some highlights. And even though we're talking about carts, what we realize is that really it's a function of the whole experience. So we're going to start kind of on the home page a lot of times, and then in some cases work deeper into the cart. So Norton, pretty big company, part of Symantec, one of our clients. So I'm going to let Charles start off so I can hold my punches a little bit.
Okay, very good. I didn't realize they were one of your clients. So interesting here. I mean, the first thing is you've asked us to look at this page and then the cart process. And the first reaction that I get from this is actually it's very difficult to do an assessment of or compare features between these two different alternatives you're giving us here. So you're basically giving us two choices, but it's actually really quite hard. If I click the Learn More button, then
well,
I
actually,
get down.
before we even that, yeah, I mean, no one's even seeing that Learn More button. I don't think that's a realistic scenario. I mean, you'd have to be pretty deliberate to do that. But yeah, I agree with you that there's the problem is that you start with a high-level choice, and it's kind of premature. Ask for the close. You know, buy now. That's what it says on the page. And based on what? Based on the prices? Based on the boxes? The boxes kind of look the same. I don't know what security versus 360 is, unless I'm intimately familiar with the product line. So to me, it's kind of a premature ask is the biggest problem here.
Yeah, it's not very clear to me exactly what you get for your extra $10. So that's really the key thing that you've got to communicate. Obviously, you're steering people here with, to come this side because this looks just more attractive. I mean, should we just follow this down, this path down, Tim?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But then you're asked to make a decision of whether you want the annual plan or the cheaper plan. So that's another issue I have, which makes people do math in their head. They're not very good at that.
Yeah. The other thought that occurred to me is, of course, you've got some upsells and cross-sells, in fact, in the cart process, which you've always got to be very careful with. But in fact, there's one that caught my eye, which is this one here, which, having had viruses and needed some help, just looks incredibly attractive. And in fact, you're then tempted to click on that, and then, of course, you're now wondering, should I get that or not? So to some extent, you've got to be really careful with those additional cross-sells, because you can in fact confuse and distract the customer, and ultimately they may not go all the way through the process.
And before you've closed that screen, just to indicate, some of you may be seeing these little purple pop-ups in the upper right of the pages. That's something that Charles is running on his computer. That's not something that would show up on the page.
That's correct, but it does tell me you're running Blue Kai, and more people are now running these monitoring tools, and that makes me nervous that you're going to sell my data to somebody. So Blue Kai is one of these retargeting ad technologies. So I'm a little bit nervous about that.
Yeah. When my problem here is that the clear lack of moving forward, although there is kind of a cluster in the middle of the page with the different payment methods, the button is blue. So I mean, you guys have a real strong brand color. On the previous page, there was this orange button that told me to buy now. Here, there's three little ad buttons on the page that actually are little. Even though they're small, they're kind of competing for prominence with the button. It should be the continue to secure checkout should be big and orange and consistent. You want me always to click on the biggest orange button on the page kind of idea, and be consistent about that. Don't switch up button formats. But the text on the page, on the button rather, I really like, because it's making me feel safe. Unlike actually the buy now on the previous page. Add to cart is the real thing you want me to do there, and that feels safer. And here you're telling me continue to secure checkout, which again is making it feel secure and making it seem like not a final kind of issue, you know, not something where I'm going to get charged my credit card. So it's always good to have these kind of incremental soft sells, tell me exactly what's going to happen next. So I changed the buy now to add cart, and here I'd keep this text but make it an orange button.
I also was slightly confused by this button. I tried to click this on a couple of occasions to get the to add this product into the cart. So that's a confusing logo because it makes it look like it's an ad. I know it says ad there, but it's stronger in some way and more prominent. Okay.
Yeah, there's some security seals here. Of course, Norton secured on the Norton site. I would expect that, which is great. Also, the actual payment methods serve as a form of security. And frankly, I think with your brand recognition, if someone's on this page, you don't need too much more than that. I think it does give me the sense that it's the official corporate site, which is all that really matters.
Well, one thing which I like about this page is that they're continuing to sell through the cart. So, you know, you're continuing to reinforce the message as you go through the cart process. Very often, you know, there's this sort of temptation not to distract anybody at all with anything, and therefore you just get the pure cart. Yet, you know, on occasions you still need to keep selling. And that 150 plus million users at the top there, that's really good. In fact, there's a question, you know, whether you wouldn't bring that forward onto the earlier pages, because that's a really important statement.
Absolutely. That's the reason. That's one of the reasons to buy. It's a reason to continue buying. But one thing I would like to see here is instead of that little box in the upper right, I'd like to see that turned into a vertical column that takes up the whole right side. Put a little light gray background against it, and then turn all of those tiny words into seals. 150 million users, that should be spelled out, a nice long number, 150, comma, 000, comma, 000. Free customer support 24/7, that should be turned into a seal. So you need a column of transactional trust seals there, making me feel reassured.
Okay, let's go one more page and see what happens. So we go down a little bit more into billing. And at this point, you get a lot of text, to be honest.
Wow, yeah, and it looks like things have changed. It looks like a different header. It looks like this is the part of the cart that's controlled by IT now, and it's harder to change, so it looks a little more like templated and old school. It doesn't really match the modern look and feel, I would say, exactly of the previous pages.
Yeah, the other thing that makes me nervous here is also renewal. I completely understand why you do this, but when you actually read the small print, it doesn't sound very friendly. It sounds like, you know, you're never going to let me go. It's going to be impossible to cancel this thing. So that needs some care and attention.
Yeah, and you know, there's the lawyers will have their way with this stuff. I mean, to their credit, and it's above the fold. I mean, it's above the call to action where it probably legally needs to be. And I think in this case, you know, and I hate to say it, but with software and financial services, a lot of us just click right on through this stuff. In fact, in a way, the longer that disclaimer text, the more likely we are to ignore it. There are a lot of studies that say that. My biggest issue here is with the continue button. Why, again, continue to what? What's going to happen next? Is it place my order? Is it continue to order review? You always have to tell me where I am in the process. And you do in the breadcrumbs in the upper left of the page. It looks like the next step is review. Just tell me what's going to happen next. Is this the part where I pull the trigger? Are you going to charge my card here? It's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing, of course, is that having entered your email address, or in fact, it might have been captured earlier up the site, if you bail, then Symantec don't do anything. They don't actually contact you, which is an incredibly big lost opportunity. We work with quite a few software companies, and I can tell you now, for a company the size of Symantec, that is a you know, several $1 million being left on the table simply because they don't follow up with people who don't complete at this point.
Yeah, and even the ones that do, I mean, it's in the lower left here, as you can see, email, verify email, password, verify password. I hate that stuff. I mean, if I have a improperly formed email, that might be an issue. So there's some logic to having a verify email. But the password, if you have my email address, then just send me a password reset. Don't make everybody jump through that extra hoop of verifying password.
Yeah, I'm increasingly of the view you don't actually need to verify email, just like you on that, Tim, because you know, people know that if they're going to go through this, then they're going to enter an email address correctly because they're going to want to get the link that allows them to download it.
That's right, and so the reason to give that email should be clear, as well. Not just we want your email address, because that's not technically part of billing, which is where they're sticking it. So you have to give me the reason if you're going to put it in that context.
So should we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay, let's drag this one across. Staying with computers and software for the moment. So over to Lenovo. So Lenovo asked us specifically to look at this landing page, which is coming in at their best-selling laptop, which is the T series. So Tim, do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah. Well, information overload. I mean, I see this kind of stuff on computer sites and also on hosting sites. Here's our 3 or 4 plans, or here's our 3 or 4 versions, and read all this tiny text and be a real analytical engineer, and then eventually you'll figure it out. What makes it worse is if you actually scroll down, there's the detail specs. And Charles, I think you pointed this out. If you scroll down this page, that pretty much all the specs are the same. So what my problem here is just even making the decision, other than reading a bunch of technical specs, how do I even do it? Which one's right for me? It should say for casual use, or for the road warrior, or for the small business, or for the the multimedia movie watcher crowd. I mean, there's got to be something about me here, not just your specs, but a recognition of who the intended audience is and what makes these different or suited for each of those purposes.
Well, or you can just summarize it. I mean, they're either i3, i5, or i7, and then they're either, it's then the memory, they're 4 gigs or 8 gigs, and then it's, 3 different sizes or types of hard drive. That's it.
But again,
that's all the detail you need on the page, right?
Well, yeah, that's the only things that are different. Say they all include the following, and here's how they're different. That would be much more helpful. But still, Charles, I mean, that's at the feature level, and my problem is that we're still having i3, i5. You're assuming we know Intel's line of processors. You're kind of a nerd like me, but most people don't care. They just want to know, will it play my HD video without a hiccup? Isn't that really what we care about?
Yeah. What do you think about the sort of a most popular kind of flash or something of that nature to steer people towards a particular option?
Yeah, if you want me to select towards one, then you should definitely call it out and make it different, whether with the background color, with the little most popular seal. That's kind of a form of social proof. If everyone's doing it, I'm more likely to do it too. But the call to action here, besides being bizarrely gray and not looking like a button, says select. I mean, what you should do is kind of lure me into the experience of, customize yours. You want me to feel a sense of ownership as I go through it and add a bunch of upsells, presumably, and upgrades to the memory and the hard disk and the cover color or whatever. So select. What does that actually mean? I'm telling you, people's blood pressure literally gets raised when there's anxiety. Okay, they go, what's going to happen next? And it's a physiological response. So help me contain that by properly telling me what's happening next on the button.
The other thing I found slightly odd about this page is where it says use e-coupon, and I wasn't sure whether I had to click that or whether I had to copy it or I had to remember it or write it down, and I was going to need it later in the checkout process. I know that sounds really bizarre.
No, you know what? I see this all the time. It's kind of weird. What would say if I'm already online, I understand if you send me a printed flyer or something, or I see it in a banner ad. But even the banner ad, you can link to it and it'll say, yeah, you're automatically eligible. And by the way, it doesn't say what that coupon is good for, how much off, whether it's a percentage or an amount. Why why make me do the work of entering it when you can pass it behind the scenes? So just let me know. Mother's Day special, next 48 hours, you get $100 off.
Yeah. I mean, given the complexity of these kind of products, the add to wish list is kind of really obvious, because once you get to a point where you've actually found a product and you begin to think about specs, because, I mean, it's just so many features to think about, then you kind of might want to click add to wish list and add it to a wish list very simply. The challenge here, when it loads, in fact, I did notice that the site is actually quite slow in several areas. It's actually forced you to create an account just to add it to the wish list.
Yeah, and that's no good. Lenovo ID, now I'm supposed to figure out if I have one of those or if I'm expected to create it, or why do I need it? Just another ID for me to remember. I know my email. You know, but you have a great point. When you have these considered purchase, large ticket items, people aren't necessarily ready to pull the trigger right away. So you have to give them an intermediate kind of deliverable or some way to save what they do on the site. To me, that's here, download the complete model guide. Give them a nicely formatted PDF with every, you know, almost like a print brochure with all the pretty stuff. And all I should need for that is an email address.
Well, and the other thing, of course, is that, you know, with one of these considered purchases, then you're giving them that nice intermediate step, the sort of micro conversion, if you like. But by giving an email address, they're actually reinforcing a little bit more commitment to you. But then they're also giving you a mechanism to follow up. So it's a trigger for a potential remarketing campaign. So very
but to be fair, I mean, you're more on the email side of things. I would say if it's earlier in the process where I'm just educating myself of, you know, which product line I need or you know, how are there similar things? What I'd want is a download without any restrictions or giving you personal information. So it might be appropriate to say download product guide, and inside that product guide it has a link back to, okay, customize your laptop, and that takes you into the customization process whenever you're ready. But I say sometimes it's not even appropriate to have an email if it's an early stage ask.
Okay, so let's go down the process a little bit and see what happens. Oops. Assuming it happens. Is it happening? There we go. So, lot to load. Now, one of the things that's interesting around this is that there is a huge amount of stuff in here. And what's interesting is when you actually unfold it, you don't really get the option to change anything. So, quite why you need this, I don't know.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. This very simple logic, I mean, of all folks, you know, Lenovo should be able to figure this out. If there's only one option, it's not really an option. It's kind of like us born in the Soviet Union. You must vote for the communist candidate. There is no other. You know, it's like there is no option, so why are you wasting my time? You already told me these details already. Here's the standard stuff it comes with. Here's the actual things I can modify. Just, you know, focus on that subset of stuff.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
You know, again, it's a help me decide is good, but the help me decide is only once you expand each thing. The help me decide should be at the top level before it's even expanded. Otherwise, I don't know that that help is even available.
I mean, in fact, most of this is around software, so this is where you get to choose. So maybe somehow there's a way of bringing that up or bringing that to the top of the page, and then the rest is just see the other features that are already included, just to simplify it dramatically.
Yeah, base configuration or something like that. Again, as long as it's something you can't change. Also, I'd like to see a continue button. It says add to cart, but the add to cart where you just clicked it was on the right. And I mean, to me, I'm going down the body of the page. When I get to the bottom, that's where, you know, it's like price disconfiguration or something like that, or add to cart's fine, but it should be in the lower right of the body of the page, not stuck off in the upper right when I've already scrolled way down the page.
Yeah. Now, I did, in fact, press the continue button earlier on, and it took 32 seconds to return the next page. So,
wow.
I'm not necessarily proposing that we do that here, although it may be quicker. That may have just been a gremlin that got into the system. Lenovo, if I went to bail at this point and an email address has been captured, then Lenovo is one of the companies that actually did send a remarketing email. So, what I've got to do is
let's take a look at that. By the way, while we're waiting for that, again, the hashtag for the webinar is badcart, and you can see our handles there in the chat window. It's Charles's is @webconversion, and mine is @Tim_Ash. So feel free to tweet the crap out of it.
Okay. Let me just try and pull this one up. So you get your, oops, let's try that again. So this is the Lenovo email that comes out. It comes out at about 12 hours after the abandon, which is not in any way optimal timing.
Isn't that kind of completely cold and stale in 12 hours?
Well, 12 hours is definitely suboptimal. I mean, these go cold really fast, and in fact, there's various studies that show that 90% of leads go cold in an hour or whatever. So you really need to follow up immediately. But if this was abandoned, for example, at 4:36 p.m. as it was in the evening, then that basically means that I'm going to get it at 4:26 a.m. in the morning, which, okay, maybe it's ready for my breakfast, but I'm unlikely to see it come in.
Yeah, I think, we work with companies all over the world, and if we have clients in India 12 and a half time zones away, typically when we're awake, they're asleep and vice versa. So 12 hours is about the worst offset you can do for timing.
Yeah, not great. So it does have a picture of the product. That's great. The problem is that you can't actually go back to the product. So there's no easy way to go back. Now, Lenovo did say that they can't take you back into the cart. There's usually ways around that. So we could probably help you with that a little bit if you need to know how to do that.
Well, wait, because we're talking about there's a big difference between taking you into that cart session, which I think they probably technically can't do, but they can certainly, or they should be able to take me into a laptop checkout configured the same way, start a new session for me and preload it with all the things I already picked.
Absolutely. You can effectively reconstruct the cart. In fact, that's not what happens. If you look at the page that you get taken to, you get taken to a completely different configuration panel, and you start from
Looks
scratch.
Very different. Yep.
Which is very different. So that's a problem to me.
I lost all my work. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. There's another problem here as well, which is that you've got 10% off in an email that's come out almost immediately after an abandon for a considered purchase. The worry here is you're actually going to train customers to anticipate getting a discount, and therefore what they're going to do is they're just going to bail, so that they can
every time, yep, and get the discount, yep.
Hey,
also, my big problem with this is the call to action. Join our newsletter looks like the only thing I'm supposed to do on this page. That's not the main point of this. But it's like, join our newsletter. Forget buying something that you're in the cart for.
Exactly. I mean, there are many things that are suboptimal about this. Timing, the call to action, etc., even down to the subject line. The way you write the subject line in remarketing emails is really important. Okay, so should we move on?
Yes, let's go to the next one.
And in fact, let's go to Zales.
Okay, we're moving out of software now to stuff my wife might like.
Okay, so when you first go to the site, you basically get hit almost immediately with a pop-up offer. Now, Tim and I sort of disagree on these because he sort of loves to hate them, and whilst I don't love them, I know how well they work. So without an incentive, you can typically get about a 3% subscription rate compared with maybe getting only a 1 or 1.5% subscription rate without the pop-up. However,
well, I'm not against collecting information earlier in the process. What I'm against is unexpected interruptions. When I come to a website, I want to see the website. So if you're blocking me on the way in and interrupting me, you should test this. That's the main point. If you can get someone to give you their email address without the bounce rate going up on the site, but that's usually not the case. So there's a trade-off, and you have to figure out the economics of whether it's appropriate.
Okay, very good. So
by the way, exit pop-ups, go to town. They're leaving anyway. You have nothing to lose.
Okay, so we're into the site, and in fact, there is a sort of an email buried down the bottom here. So if you're not going to use an email capture pop-up like that one, then this needs to come up the top. It needs to explain why they should give you the email address. Number one reason why they'll give you an email address in the first place is to get special offers and promotions. Yep. So this actually tells you that, so that's good. But it is a long way down the page, so that's going to get a little bit lost. So should we just see how about buying some earrings? What do you think about those?
Well, good luck, because there's a giant banner. Oh, the pop-up is okay. Don't ever do that, which is I've already dismissed that sign-up offer. Don't spring it on me again when I just switched to another page. That was weird. My problem is you already just decided what to buy, and for the purposes of this, let's go to the product detail page. My problem is that whole home page is a giant banner, but I know we have some more examples of that. I'll talk about it later.
You want to talk about the moving banner, don't you? Okay.
Well, it's not. This one's not moving. We'll wait for a moving one. I know we have a couple more.
We'll come back to that. Let's. Any quick comments on this page?
Yeah, I think that every page needs a headline, and you have tiny text that says half carat TW diamond double frame stud earrings and 10K white gold. That should be big center text on the page. That's what the whole page is about. It's not just some tiny little information that's off to the right. So it's about the picture and about the right-hand side, so span both with the headline.
I'd agree. It feels very uncomfortable it being on the right because the image is on the left, but in fact, it's the caption for the picture almost, isn't it?
Hey, but look, they use the word brilliant, which I know you like to do a lot too. Brilliant value, that's in red. Add to bag, just in terms of usability, I've seen this on some of our high fashion clients and jewelry sites. Folks, just use standard convention, okay? Yes, we all know we were not really shopping at Walmart with a cart, but cart is the correct metaphor. Don't make me think. Add to bag, oh, shopping bag, ha ha, how cute. You know, you have to go through that whole mental process just to figure out if that's the same as add to cart. Don't make me do that. Just call it add to cart.
Okay, so let's add it to the cart or even to the bag, shall we, and see what happens.
By the way, if you have 3 Facebook likes on that page, I wouldn't be advertising next to the call to action for that.
Right, the first one that stands out to me at the bottom actually is these two verified by Visa and MasterCard secure codes. Now, we actually did a piece of consumer research just recently, which we haven't published yet, but it shows that 10% of consumers will bail when they see verified by Visa or MasterCard secure code logos, simply because they anticipate the extra step and the extra password, which they can never remember, popping up at some point during the checkout process. So,
wow, okay, so they know that this is one of those annoying sites that has the extra word for them.
So as an annoying site, now you think verified by Visa sounds like it's a security seal, and that's why they've begun to be used on checkout processes like this. But it is a negative, and clearly you got to be careful with that
because it's intrusive and makes you do extra work. And yep, understood. You know, and my problem with this is there's a bunch of tiny text at the top of the page, so you know it has a lot of. Just the way it's kind of chopped up, there's a lot of, you know how many buttons there are? There's continue shopping, proceed to checkout in red, update bag, apply, continue shopping, PayPal, proceed to secure checkout. There's 7 or 8 buttons scattered all over this cart page. And I see this quite a bit, and you're not helping me prioritize. Now, I can understand having a, you know, the main button, which is proceed to secure checkout, be a button. The rest should be probably demoted to text links. Don't just button all over the page.
Okay. So, in fact, we have picked up free shipping on $149, although that was pretty buried on the site, to be honest. One of the things I would say higher up is you need to bring that out in prominence. The other thing on this particular page is you're trying to upsell me from a $500 pair of earrings to a $1,000 pair of earrings, and that is kind of dangerous. You've got to be a little bit careful, in particular with the upsell, because it now makes me think, oh, maybe there's a better site I need to go look at. So I was at the point when I was ready to carry on and click proceed to secure checkout and go through the process, and now, oh, maybe I haven't got maybe I haven't got it right. Other guests like these, maybe I should go look at those as well. So there's great danger there. This is one of those things you need to test. You can reduce your conversion rate and increase your revenue at the same time, and therefore you really, the only answer is you've got to test and be careful with upsells in the cart.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I would say is using a promotional code, apply. By putting that text input field right in that right-hand side as I look down the page, makes me want to go find one. Oh, hey, I'm sure there's a Zales code somewhere. Let me go to coupons.com. And so you're conditioning people to do that. I would make that much more discreet against the text link that opens up a text input field. That makes more sense to me. Don't advertise, again, especially for big retailers. You know, there's coupon codes all over the place. Do you really want me to think about that at the moment I'm ready to pay the full $4.99? If I have one already, then I'll find the little text link that says have a promo code, question mark.
Yeah, and moreover, of course, if you go look for a promo code and then you find one on a promo code site, then you'll click back through the link, and before you know it, Zales is then paying an affiliate commission as well for traffic that they'd already originated.
Oh, and worse than that, it'll probably reset things and it won't take you right back to this cart. You know, so.
Yeah, the other thing you can do, which is done really, really nicely by Macy's, is at this point they have a little link which basically says, do you want a promo code? Want to get one? And that then takes them to their promo code page, which in this case maybe you might take them to the clearance page where you've got a whole series of clearance items, or ideally a page on your site which has got all your current valid promo codes listed.
Yeah, and then also the thing that strikes me in terms of color themes here, it's a pretty bland site, you know, just shades of gray and black and white, but the red used throughout, you know, is a really kind of dangerous color. You have clearance, as you pointed out, in red. The proceed buttons, usually red's warning, and in this case, there's 3 places where there's text in the body of the page that's red. Usually that's an error. free shipping, it shouldn't look like an error. Free shipping is a great benefit at the bottom of the page there. So don't use red text.
So let's assume that I bailed and an email address has been captured. What then happens? Well, what you get from Zales is something looking a little bit like this, which is basically you get subscribed to the newsletter. Now, I haven't actually subscribed. All I've done is I've entered my email address in the checkout process. So this is definitely edgy when it comes to sort of permission policies. It's right on the edge, effectively. It is. it is quite commonly done, I have to say. This is probably the most commonly done remarketing technique of the IR250. We did a study, we went and abandoned all of the IR250.
And IR is Internet Retailer 250, the 250 biggest retailers.
Yeah. So subscribing you to the newsletter, I mean, it's okay in that your content, at least you're doing something, you're not ignoring them, but you are basically then just subscribing to the newsletter. It's not really related to my particular purchase. So this would work a lot better, particularly given high-ticket items where remarketing worked unbelievably well to do something which is much more personal.
Yeah, and pretty much you know that it's, except for, you know, the stuff on men's rings or something, a specific section, that a lot of this is pretty much all for women. I mean, we do it because we're forced to and because De Beers has run commercials for decades about the price of engagement rings and all that. But the bottom line is it should be personal. Like, imagine these earrings on her and have a big-ass picture of that specific thing I have in my cart. You want to create a sense of continuity and lust and desire. This is a discretionary item after all. Focus it back on how I'm going to feel based on how she's going to feel when she gets them.
I mean, that's a great point, actually. As a male buyer, I'd very much like to see jewelry on somebody rather than, you know, that there are no model shots on Zales at all. It's kind of interesting. Maybe they're female buyers and they don't need model shots, or maybe models are distracting.
Well, yeah, that's an editorial policy. You should be consistent. You should either always show your product on models or never. So they've chosen one route.
So, Tim, have you been on vacation yet this year? How about a little trip to Rome? What do you think about?
That sounds wonderful. I haven't been there since I was 8.
Okay, so here we are. We're now at Dark Rome Tours. So do you want to go first? Come on, talk about the banner, talk about the carousel.
Well, the giant rotating banner, you know, normally I hate them. I think on this site, I'm afraid we're recording this, so I'm on the record. It might be appropriate. What you want to do is evoke that sense of place, and a giant picture almost immersing me in the architectural experience is actually doing a great job. I'd like that just to be one static image instead of a rotator, but this is where at least a giant image is appropriate.
They are wonderful photographs, aren't they?
Yeah.
So let us think about doing a Vatican tour, shall we? What do you think about that? How about?
Sì, molto bene.
So if you've not done a Vatican tour, you really do need to do that in your life. That's always fantastic.
I hear they cleaned up the ceiling of the Sixtine Chapel. When I was there, it was all gray with 500 years of soot, but now it's amazing.
Yeah, so here you are, you're now on the tours page. You can obviously flick between different parts of the tours page. And one of the things that we noticed is that when you do that, you immediately lose your arrival departure date. Now maybe that's because, you know, if you're going from Rome to Venice, yeah, I can understand that, but from Vatican, which is sort of effectively a sort of mini city inside Rome, you know, I could easily be doing that on the same day. So that's a real annoying thing.
Yeah, you're making me do work over again. I mean, look, if I know my time frame usually is the summer vacation or you know, the winter holidays or whatever, but I pretty much know when I'm traveling, and if I've already told you those dates, then don't undo them. Assume at least that they're the same dates.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, that's really important is TripAdvisor. I don't know whether there is a TripAdvisor logo on the front page, and TripAdvisor for travel is incredibly important. I've just done a trip around China using TripAdvisor extensively, so I'm a heavy user of that site. But where you've got reviews, you've clearly got some good reviews in there. The TripAdvisor ones is a difficult thing for you because you've clearly got some bad experiences as well as some positive experiences, and therefore, you know, it's a double-edged sword about how heavily you promote that. But in particular for tours, I think TripAdvisor is really, really important.
And I think, you know, if you have, no, that's great. If you know, if I think it's good to have your own reviews because they're kind of a defensible way of maintaining a competitive advantage. At the same time, like you say, that a TripAdvisor is more of a third-party trust seal in a sense. So I'd probably add those as well.
Okay. 132 likes are good though. So let's create a nightmare tour, 2 adults and 10 infants, which they don't charge for the infants, just to make the tour guide really happy. Okay. So when you get into the checkout process, you've got the promo code box again. In fact, if you do a Google on dark Roam, and that's as far as you get, it then comes up and says dark Roam promo code. So you have the same problem we were just talking about.
Yeah, and then again, just a lot of times we kind of see past this because we're looking at the functionality of the pages and we look at them all day long. But I find the use of the background flat colors here really annoying. Like there's that footer which has the black bar, but there's also, just to say, customers who have purchased the above also purchased the following. The cross-sell there, that black bar is really striking in high contrast, and it makes the pale seafoam green buttons, pale in comparison. So you really have to visually prioritize and not decorate your page with unnecessary kind of visual boogers, if you will.
And same comment again about cross-selling alternatives in the cart. Again, you've got to be really, really careful with that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's always okay on the product detail page. It's rarely okay in the cart. And again, the thing I was talking about buttons, normally the default position for things to click on is lower right button. Right now, that's more info for the Tivoli from Rome tour instead of receipt to payment. So it's kind of messed up in terms of layout in my mind. Too many buttons, and the main one is not clear priority.
Okay, very good. So we've decided we're not going to go to Pompeii, although it does sound like a lovely idea. I've been to Pompeii a long time ago. In fact, there's no remarketing here.
79 AD, as I recall. No, just joking.
There's a lot of opportunity around travel and remarketing. We do quite a lot in travel, so that's something you should have a look at, because clearly, if you've captured an email address at this point and I've bailed, then there's an opportunity there.
Again, to me, this is a lost opportunity because the business model is wrong. It's like, buy our tour. These are definitely considered purchases, and guess what? They usually involve other people, and that's why if you download the guide for this tour, including exactly the dates and itineraries and customized to what I've already put in the cart. It shouldn't be an add to cart. The default action here on the product detail or tour page should be, send me this information in a PDF so I can share it with all the other people involved.
And in fact, one of the things I noticed is on the Facebook site for Dark Rome, they've got city guides for things like Rome itself, but you don't get hit with that. That's a great opportunity to go download the app, then you can explore it yourself. It's another little micro conversion. Or indeed, if somebody's abandoning from a Rome trip, then that's great to say, well, an intermediate step if they haven't already done so, which is then go download that guide.
No, here's an exit pop-up opportunity. If they do leave this page even, that's when you say, hey, download, you want this in a downloadable guide? Great. Okay, let's grab the email right there.
Okay.
Hey, guys,
so how about a little bit of...
Can I jump in with a couple questions that I'm seeing? First of all, because you've mentioned the exit pop-up twice, Tim, so we're getting some questions on how do you accomplish that and if there are any good examples. And then the second one is, can you please elaborate more on the no rotating banners on the home page and why that's bad? Because several people have the need for some ammunition with their teams.
Okay,
well,
so
I have a whole,
go on, you go first.
Well, I have a whole section in my book about the evils of rotating banners, but basically it's expensive real estate on your home page usually, and if something is important, it should have a dedicated real estate. When you introduce motion into the page, your reptilian brain freaks out and starts evaluating the importance of that thing changing in your visual scene. Well, here's a perfect example. What are you looking at? The slider. Does that help you navigate the site or buy anything? No. But your eye can't avoid the motion. Have any of you right now read the two things below the slider? No, because it's like putting an atomic bomb in your page. Nothing else is going to withstand the blast radius. With regard to exit pop-ups, I would say, again, you have to be real clear about doing them in context. It can't just be random. So if someone's leaving, that's a, oops, did you forget you had something in your cart kind of pop-up? or again, a micro conversion, as Charles put it. Think through of what would be interesting to someone who is actually leaving.
Well, I mean, we actually have a product which does that. So I'll sort of quick commercial plug for that. But aside from that, I think that the context is really important. So we like to think about it very much as a customer service benefit, almost you kind of add to wish list, which is then sort of saying, well, would you like us to send you a link to this page or something like that, so that or would you like to save this page so that there's a benefit to the customer from them receiving that page, and that is what gets you the the opt-in rate effectively.
Yeah, and by the way, the wish list idea I think is kind of flawed. I mean, a lot of people add stuff to cards so that they can remember it, and that serves as their wish list, which is why in a way you see high abandonment on some cards. But I think it's much better, and I agree with kind of the whole email approach and what you guys focus on, which is, just say, email me this thing. I don't want a wish list because I don't know if my cookie is going to expire and it'll still be there a day from now. A lot of those wish list links are bad when you come back to them, so I don't trust wish lists. So I'd much prefer just email it to me.
And obviously, when you email them, you've actually got to send them a link back to what is probably a reconstructed cart. I mean, we know that
which always works and doesn't break.
Yeah, because people hold on to those emails for some time, and that may be longer than your cart persistence. So, I mean, that also says you need to set your cart persistence long.
Yes.
We recommend 90 days or more. So
why not a year? I mean, if I come back, who cares? Why would you time out my cart? If I don't come back for a year, but then I do, and you say, hey, last time you were here, welcome back. This is what you were doing. Pick up right where you left off.
Okay, so apart from the rotating banner on Rainbow, what are your thoughts, Tim?
Well, again, I have no idea what this site sells, except for what's in the promos that are going by. So, Rainbow, I'd love to see a tagline of women's stylish clothes on a budget, or I don't know, whatever your positioning is. But my biggest problem is with this and other rotating banner e-commerce catalogs is that what's in the nav bar is not going to get looked at. If you're relying on people to use that tiny reverse color text on the nav bar, you're very much mistaken. It needs to be belt and suspenders, and you need to repeat those high-level categories visually inside the page instead of that giant rotating banner.
Okay. So let's navigate down a little bit just quickly. See what happens as we get into the product category. Sorted by what's new, which is an interesting statement in its own right. So not most popular, but what's new. Okay.
I think that, again, too much choice on these kind of search results pages. I think that the product is shown well. They're big enough. They're not too gigantic, but you get the idea. I like where you're showing alternative patterns under certain ones. You're showing different colors or pattern combinations. That's pretty well done. It cues me off to the fact that there's more than one. I think that in-page scrolling, or rather navigation to pages 2 and 3 of this search results is not likely. You're almost better off just putting them on one big page.
So what do you think about the five product grid? Do you think it's better to have bigger product images and fewer products shown, or?
I think in this case they're appropriately sized. That works. One thing I can tell you is that on the left-hand side, just the opposite, that faceted navigation and drill down is only used by power users. If you go to your analytics, maybe 2% of your visitors are even using that at all. I'd prefer that you drill down to categories and subcategories and subcategories and then show me a reasonable set of products instead of making me use filtering to get down to the product.
Okay, very good. So let's add one to the cart and see what happens. Okay,
well, let's see. That cart popped up. Okay, so that was helpful because I got feedback that something happened. But now what? I'm still on this page. That's a little bizarre. I generally prefer to go to the cart. When you say add it to the cart, and again, not add to bag, but add to cart, and leave me in the cart. And then give me other places to go. Say, hey, you want to go back to that category level from that product detail page where you just looked, or here's our top level categories again, something like that. But here I'm kind of lost. I saw the cart notification pop up and I'm still on this page. Now what?
Yeah, and that's becoming increasingly common, but it does mean that you've then got to go find the checkout button to figure out how to check out, which is that little thing up there.
Right, and I don't understand the distinction between my bag and checkout. It should just say, go to cart.
Well, if you're quick, if you're really quick when it pops up, then you can then you can hit the checkout button, right?
Yes.
I mean, I do like the free shipping on all orders 50 or more on every page. I think that's important.
Right, but that's way too high up, and it kind of don't ever advertise inside your header. That's for your logo, that's supporting nav bar, the search, and toll-free number if you have one. But don't put promos there. That should be in the page. It should be on every product detail page, because I did look on the product detail page. Free shipping on over $50.
Yep. And of course, one of the other nice things you can do is if you're below the threshold, then you can say, and it's only X bucks to go before you hit the $50 free shipping threshold.
Yes, if you're close, then you can actually incentivize people to spend more money.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, one of the things just an observation is that on the sale and clearance, to me, it was not clear what the difference between sale and clearance was. And in fact, when you kind of go there, what you find is that you have one product in sale and then a lot in clearance, which I guess is all the buy one, get one free category. But it just seems to be that you've got a little bit of an orphan there, and then the clearance page takes a long time to load.
Yeah, and just as a quick aside, I think the whole notion of sale and clearance at a top level is not necessarily good for broad-based catalogs, because you're conditioning people to bargain hunt. Unless that's your brand strategy, it can be very dangerous, just like asking for promo codes. And it makes you, in effect, replicate all of your category and subcategories in that clearance section. So maybe go to tops or go to pants, and then at the category or subcategory level, it's fine to have a clearance call out once someone's indicated what their intent is and what they're interested in.
Okay, right. I'm conscious of time. Let's move over and have a little look at some toys. Okay, we've gone to the Red Wagon Toy Company, who are famous for Rhodey, which is a child's, what would you call it, ride-on kind of a toy?
Yeah. How many toys do you think this company sells?
Not that many.
8. Exactly 8, because that's how many individual toys they show. Yeah. So those are not doing a good job representing categories. Green toys, a dump truck doesn't say green toys to me. Hot balls, if you want to show me that that's a category, you should have balls of different sizes and colors in a composite shot. So I think they've done a poor job representing the fact that these are category level links on the homepage.
Okay. Let's have a quick look at Rhodey, see what happens there. And you get a whole choice of
there's lots of Rhodeys, exactly. So why don't you show me the rainbow of Rhodeys on that homepage?
Yeah, lots of different colors. Some benefits coming in, and in fact maybe even a use case here as well. There are some videos which can show you what you do with a Rhodey, or rather what your kids do with a Rhodey, or how to repair your Rhodey when it breaks. But the music is some of the most annoying music you've ever come across, so we won't put you through that.
Which is dangerous if you're in the office, and then the people not only know that you're shopping for toys on your work time, but...
Okay. Gentlemen, I did want to clarify, we're from the site user, I'm finding out those weren't categories, they're actually different toy companies. So Green Toys is a company, and so whatever, so that itself wasn't obvious to you.
Right, then they should be represented by their brands, but I don't think of toy companies. If it's the Red Wagon Toy Company, great. If I'm looking for wagons or I'm looking for dump trucks, I don't care what company they come from. They can come from whoever carries those on your site, but they should be by product category, except for Rhodeys, which are kind of a one-trick pony, if you'll pardon the pun.
Okay, so let me just add one to the bag and see where we go with this. And we are into a very simple cart, so, which maybe I'll just go through one more.
Well, actually, before you do, at this point, I would probably let's see if the left nav goes away when you hit secure checkout. Let's do it.
It does.
Good. Okay, so now we're kind of in that checkout flow. One of the things that we see a lot is these combination ship to build to screens, and what we suggest is on the last page, you showed me what was in the cart. So you don't need to do that again at the top of the page. You can do that as a right cart summary that builds up in a vertical column. But my problem is that we have two tasks here. You're calling it customer information, but really bill to and ship to addresses are different. There's no reason not to have that extra step. Make the screen look easier. Have the ship to address. And then on the next page, bill to address. Same as shipping. If it's already pre-checked, then you just ask me for my credit card information. But you have to group these things by little conceptual task and not mix and match ship and bill to on the same page just to save screens.
I'm going to save a bit of time. I'm not going to enter all the details in here. In fact, you have to enter all of those details before you calculate the shipping cost. And I think there is a big problem on this site with the shipping cost, because when you calculate it as a percentage of the value overall, it comes in, you end up on this $52 item here you're looking at as paying $12.95, which is kind of standard, the way it's calculated. But overall, it's sort of 25 to 45% of the item value, and that's the way the shipping scale works.
Wow.
So it's all down here in the shipping and return section, but I won't go into detail there. But I think you need to look at that, because I'm sure that is going to be the number one reason why people are bailing on your site, which is just the cost of shipping is way too expensive. And I'd imagine that there's some frustration, the fact you have to fill in all those details before you then find that the shipping is too expensive.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a great point, just in terms of the order. I do not tell me to hit the checkout button until I have my all-in price. There's no way I'm going to wait later to find out my shipping. That's just asking for it, for frustration, having me invest a bunch of time before you tell me it's too expensive. If you need to estimate shipping, fine. As a placeholder, say what's your shipping zip code. Put it in now. Well, here's your estimated shipping. You can change it later. At least I have some idea, but you have to give me some sense of the complete price. Tony was asking if I really said only 2% of people use faceted search. Yes, absolutely. That's what I said. Power user kind of thing.
Okay. So Wagon Toys, in fact, then sent us an email. So let's just have a quick look at that email. It's relatively simple. So this came in 2 hours after the original abandon, so that's much faster than the other one we looked at earlier on. Again, it's got a 10% offer. So all I've got to do is wait 2 hours in order to get my 10% offer. In fact, maybe what it should be doing is focusing on a minimum order free shipping. So maybe, if I was looking at this site, I'd look at the economics to see whether I could do minimum order free shipping at something like, 65 or 75 bucks, so that, for a $52, I can stretch them a little bit with maybe a few gift options, or a repair kit, or a base for it, a rocking base for it, or something of that nature.
Or the thing is, and you guys can help construct these email sequences, but I have a problem with an offer at all. You should make the assumption that I don't want money off. You should say like, oops, did something go wrong? You abandoned your cart. Here it is again. It should be just a pick up where you left off. In my mind, should be usually the first one. Then it's like a day later, maybe it's like, oh, did you forget that you still have this in your cart? And only the next one, maybe on the third one, is where I'm going to pop a special offer. But I wouldn't lead with money.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't lead, because you're training customers, and you have to be very careful with offers. We run a lot of A/B tests, with and without offers, and generally, if you can leverage the offers on the site, such as minimum order free shipping, that's the best way to do it. Which is, if you're almost qualified or you have qualified for free shipping, and use a customized campaign that way. I actually think you should stop running this campaign. It's not often you hear me say stop running remarketing, because there's no unsubscribe link in it. So you could try and argue that this is transactional email, but I think in a court of law, I think you'd lose on that one. We've had lawyers look at this specifically, and they conclude it definitely is marketing. If you've got a 10% coupon in, you can bet it's marketing.
Yep.
On the one hand,
it doesn't sound like a gray line. It sounds like you're way over it.
So you really do need to have an unsubscribe in there and honor your unsubscribe list. If somebody has already unsubscribed, you shouldn't be contacting them. I think we've got time for one more. Should we move on?
Yes, let's do that. And Jeremy is asking about single page versus many small piece checkout. What I'd say in general is that single page is good. Really tiny atomic steps is good. There's that in the middle thing with 3 to 5 steps. If those 3 to 5 steps aren't grouped conceptually properly, that's where you see problems.
Okay, we have now gone to Canon USA. We'll take everything as red on the rotating banner.
Yeah, rotating banner ad, evil, promotions, evil. I mean, I'm there for something, and it's probably something very specific. And so the one thing I have to say about homepage is over and over and over again is the primary purpose of your homepage, especially for a well-known brand where you don't need extra trust, is navigation. Give me a map of the world, show me your product categories, and get me closer to what I'm looking for. This is advertising at me, and that's a really bad idea. Now, we worked with your counterparts in Canada. We redid their e-store. We got them a significant double-digit revenue per visitor lift. And against our better judgment, we had to leave room for a little banner, but you can see how small it is, and it's not rotating. And the rest of the page is going for category-level navigation. And I'm sure you guys are no different than your Canadian counterparts. Finding replacement consumables for printers is the main category or the most frequent use of the site, and that's why we led with that. So go copy this or call us if you need some help, but stop advertising on your homepage and guessing at what I need.
Okay, very good. That's an easy one. You've got a ready-made template. What more do you want? What a fantastic offer from them.
Hey, even the same products.
I mean, this puzzles me slightly, which is why you're using this real estate for accessories here. I understand they're important, but in fact, you've got product name up here, so to some extent you're duplicating that. But let's just...
It's also very hard to work with this color theme. That's why we switched to a more consumer-friendly kind of pastel tone for the Canadian site. It's just it's very stark, black, white, and red. And red is very hard to work with. You back it off in the lighter tones, and it becomes useless and pink. So I'd reconsider that. Keep your logo and calls to action in red, but change the rest of it.
So when you move down into the cart, a couple of things kind of stand out immediately. I mean, first of all, actually this, again, we've got the comparison thing we talked about earlier on. It's really quite difficult at this point to figure out what the differences are between these. In fact, it turns out that you've got one body, a body on its own, you've then got one lens combination and a second lens combination. But for some reason, it's just actually really quite hard to figure that out. So it takes some digesting.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a very analytical kind of cerebral thing. Most people won't invest the time. The thing is, if this is a summary page, then you should take me to the product detail. Again, I think it's a little aggressive in situations like this to say add to cart. It's not unreasonable. It's not like some onerous extra step for me to look at a product detail page, and that's where this level of detail belongs. You should have just like a one-sentence summary. Entry-level SLR, good for most people. Our prosumer line for the people that really want extreme performance. Also, if you're going to have product images, I know some of them are sold with lenses and some without, but it kind of looks like one's bare bones, head-on, no lens, and the others are with the lenses. So it makes one look less desirable and stripped down than the others.
Okay. I'm going to jump ahead slightly because I'm conscious of time. There was something in the cart which I particularly wanted to draw your attention to, so you Canon guys, which is when you enter the detail in here on this slide, if you click the check here if your billing and shipping address are the same, if you check that box first, then what you end up with an error. So so that is well worth knowing. So let me just pull up the area, you'll see what happens. In effect, it doesn't carry forward the details because the box was checked beforehand. So that is easy to fix.
Yeah, if the box is checked, then there should be mirroring going on. It should be filling in on the right as you fill in on the left. So they should always be in sync. If you uncheck it, it erases all the stuff on the right.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you can't find why it won't work, and of course your call to action is there. You lose it on the screen grab. Any other thoughts about the two-column layout here, Tim? Because there's
the same thing. I think it's conceptually, yeah, tons of text, and again, conceptually, I don't need instructions. I don't know what the text is at the top. You're just steps away from completing your purchase. Well, stop wasting my time by telling me that then. Okay, that stuff shouldn't be there at all. If I need instructions on how to fill out a form, you got a problem. But also conceptually, again, two tasks being mixed, billing information. I expect payment information to be part of that. not billing and shipping. To you, they're conceptually the same because they're both addresses, but that's not how I think of the task. Where do I want it to go? How do I want to pay? Those are more natural kind of things. So I think it's broken up incorrectly. And then I would say there's order review as opposed to step 3 order receipt. I'd say you give me that final, yes, everything checks out. Here's what was in my cart. Here's the information I entered, a chance to go back and do it. It makes me feel safe. Because here, I think after step 2, I bought it.
Yeah, there's one other thing I want to draw your attention to as well, which I really don't particularly like, and that is this banner up here at the top. So free ground shipping and handling offer, click for more details. Well, in fact, oops, I don't think I can here. Oh, I'm on an image. Hold on, let's see if I can go back to the time. There we go. Static image doesn't work. Effectively, what it is free ground shipping and handling on all orders of $100 or more, and then there's some conditions about time period validity and whether it's US or not and everything else. You know, this free shipping is such an important benefit. You know, this should say free shipping, orders over $100, whatever, you know, conditions apply, or you know, flip it around totally, because that's so negative to then find that, you know, I can't even see that. It should be big and prominent, because, you know, number one reason why people don't buy is if they add something to the cart is a timing objection, they're not ready to buy. Number 2 is the cost of shipping and handling. Same thing can be applied here, which is you might think that this applies to cameras, because I'm actually looking at cameras, but in fact it doesn't. When you look at the 5 gifts on the combo pack, then in fact this is all related to inks.
Consumables, yep, exactly. Yeah, so I'm afraid have run out of time. We could go on like this. We hope you'll join us for future webinars. Charles, if you could throw up the Conversion Conference site. Charles has been a keynote at the Conversion Conference before and a frequent speaker, top-rated speaker. If you guys want to drink from the fire hose and learn a lot about conversion, I suggest you come to one of our U.S. or European shows. The next one in the U.S. here is Chicago on June 11th and 12th, and if you use BADCART200 as your promo code, you'll save $200 off the registration. Go to conversionconference.com. You know, thanks again. Spread the word on these webinars. We hope to see you at an upcoming one soon.
Very good. Thank you very much, everybody, for all your time. It's been a lot of fun.